Hey everybody, I'm making this video because there's currently some people complaining about level scaling in Diablo, and I'll get into that in a second. Let me just get through an intro here. So currently, a bunch of people are complaining about level scaling, and that because of level scaling, that your character will slowly get weaker because the enemies will keep level with you, or at the very least, that your character won't seem stronger because enemies keep level with you. In the recent Blizzard Town Hall, where they talked to a bunch of people, they said effectively that the players were wrong and that if you gear your character correctly, that actually, they didn't say this out loud, but actually that most players are very bad at gearing their character, and if you do gear your character correctly, that you will slowly get more and more powerful over time, and say level enemies will be weaker and weaker over time. I agree with that entirely. In fact, with everything. I believe characters, or I should say, I believe players are currently very bad at gearing their characters, and I believe that, to be blunt, same level enemies will get weaker and weaker as you progress, to the point where you can start pushing content 20 levels above you, 30 levels above you, as you gear better and better. So I figured I'd make this video just showing people generally how to actually gear your character. Now, I'm not an amazing Diablo 4 player. I don't think I am. I don't really play ARPGs. But what I do is I do play a lot of Paradox games, which are basically number crunching games, map games, country management games, stuff like that. Games where you need to know the advantages of going into debt, because going into debt can make you more money, and you need to look at your debt to profit ratio and things like that. Okay. So, with that said, how do you gear your character in this game? The first thing you should probably know when gearing your character is how the systems work in this game. The most important thing that I think you need to know is fundamentally item level. You can see how powerful an item will be at any given point in time by just looking at the item level and then looking at how it rolled its stats. So we're looking right here. We can see, for example, let me just pull up a random item here, this item. So this rolled an item level of 697. I don't need to look at the plus because that's how much I upgraded the item. That is generally its item level. That will just, that just matters how much DPS or how much armor the item will have. Then what we can see here is it will have the modifiers here. So it rolled 16.3% critical strike damage. That's just the weapon modifier. Then we have damage to stunned enemies, damage to slowed enemies, critical strike damage, damage to crowd controlled enemies, and I want to focus on these effects in particular. Something that a lot of people don't know: a stunned enemy is also a crowd controlled enemy. A slowed enemy is, you guessed it, also a crowd controlled enemy. So if with my hammer build I have stunned an enemy, I'm doing 20% damage, 19.5% damage, 14.3% damage. In addition to that, if I merely attack an enemy, they are now also slowed and crowd controlled. Why? Because I'm using the two-handed sword expertise, which inflicts 20% of my damage and bleeding. Then when I look at my skill tree, I put 1 point into hamstring. All bleeding enemies are slowed by 10%. By just doing that one simple point, doing that one simple thing, I have turned this item into a very, very high damage multiplying item. Now, we need to understand that these are all pluses. Plus critical strike damage, plus stun damage, plus stun. These are not multipliers, but they're damage, let's say, adders. So it adds a lot of damage. Multipliers and multiplication versus addition we'll get into in a little bit. But basically, when you look at these items, what you want to do is, well, I mean, I just did the hell thing, so we can look at all these items over here. So, just as an example, if I look at this item, its item level is only 657. So realistically, the damage of the item is low. But because I'm not using my swords, because I'm not using dual wielding, I could ignore the item level of the item and just look at its modifiers. We can see critical strike damage, damage done while berserking, damage to injured enemies, and damage over time. I unfortunately don't really use any of these things, so this item would be pretty dead to me. But what I do use is these boots. Now these boots have done me a lot of good. What is a primary mechanic? If you see an item that has a lot of stats you like, so strength I like, movement speed I like, slow duration reduction I don't like, but I don't hate. I also just imbued them with an imprint that damage against bleeding enemies has a 20% chance to stun them. This can be useful against bosses to try to get the stun effect on them more, if you know how that works. So I just went with that because I literally had nothing else. Now, how does imprinting work? Well, basically, you want to be disenchanting most of your legendaries. Then you use that legendary disenchant juju power to imbue an item. So if I was to say, just look at this one here, I could click this and I could imbue this. It uses baleful fragments, which I get for disenchanting legendaries. Then it uses veiled crystals, which you get from salvaging rare items. The need to constantly salvage and the need to constantly sell is how the grind works in this game. I'm not going to get into that, but generally speaking, you want enough salvage, but you also need to sell stuff because it costs a lot of money to continuously do this stuff. That's where the game's grind gets in. So basically, what you want to always be doing, pick up every item, blue and above, sell them, salvage them, go back to base if you need to, pick up crystals and put them in, or whatever these called, gems. Do that and just town portal back every time you can, because you're going to need lots of scrap, you're going to need lots of money. So this is how you imprint aspects. Now, generally speaking, any item that doesn't have an aspect on it, you could put an aspect on it, a codex and aspect they call it, right? So I save up good aspects here. Anytime you see an item with a good aspect, you want to you want to extract it, right? So if I looked at these, and I'm pretty sure all of these low rolled pretty hard. This one generated pretty decently. Each point of fury you generate while at max fury grants your next core skill 4% increased damage up to 60%. So this one could be okay if I was left clicking a lot. That was just a damage multiplier. Now if it added 60%, that wouldn't do a lot. See that X there? And just so everyone understands, what you can do is you can go into gameplay and you can turn on advanced tooltip information, advanced tooltip compare. You will need to do that, I promise you. But at any rate, if we look at this item here, I could maybe change my playstyle because I generate a lot of fury, and this did high roll, so it could be 2 to 4%, and it rolled 4%, so this item rolled pretty decently. So hypothetically, and I don't know if I will do it, maybe I'll do it just for the purposes of testing. It might not be the best idea, but I think it would be a good idea to show you guys. If I look at this and I say, well, I do generate a lot of fury, sometimes I do fill my fury too much, you know, maybe this works. Maybe this could get me, you know, like an additional 10 to 20% multiplier, right? If it was an additive, it was a plus instead of an X, this wouldn't be that much, because as you can see here with all these damage additives, I'm already probably doing, if I had to guesstimate, 400% damage. So adding 60% of that, going from 400% damage to 460% damage, isn't really that much. That's only a 15% damage increase. That would not be that much, but a multiplier, 60% multiplier, means it's going to take all your damage and times that by 60%. So this could hypothetically be pretty good. So pay attention to those pluses and pay attention to those X's. But let's go into gearing your character, right? So I'm going to use my boots as an example here. I've got fire resist, and let's be honest, fire resist right now is pretty goddamn bad. All resistances are bad. I don't know why, I just know that they are. So I go here, I go to enchant this item, and I say, fire resist, you're no good for me. Let's enchant this item. So for 80,000 gold, which I farmed up, I can now enchant this item. And I'm looking at the item level, it did roll 689. 689 is about at the upper end of where I've been getting my items. So, 689 is a good amount that I would definitely invest in this item, especially since I just imprinted in it. It didn't roll too great on the strength, or even the movement speed, or even the slow duration. But, you know, as a whole, sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet and say, look, I'm not gonna find a perfect item, but I can make a mostly good item. So we re-roll, we enchant, we go to re-roll the fire resist, and what can we get here? Fury cost reduction, lightning resistance, or no change. Now, we could go for the fury cost reduction, and that would generally be better, in my opinion, than whatever that is. Now I could try to enchant it again for 400,000, but I don't really think these boots are that good. At either rate, I've gone from useless fire resist to now I have fury cost reduction, which I consider generally to be better. Now I can do, you see if this has the little blue symbol here next to the fury cost, that means that that item has been re-rolled. Now I haven't re-rolled all my items, but I have re-rolled most of my items. So you can see here I have +1 rank of all weapon mastery. I could re-roll that as well. This item low rolled that no mercy passive. It high rolled that. Oh my god, it'd be doing so good. But it low rolled it. But it's still a rank and a passive that I consider pretty good. But we can see the +1 rank of weapon mastery. If we go to my skills here, we can see that I'm not using weapon masteries at all. In fact. So what I could do is I could go to this amulet and I can say, okay, you know what, screw it. Let's see what we could do instead of weapon mastery. And, you know, once again, we're 100,000 in. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but I don't use control impaired duration reduction because I can spam unstoppables pretty hard here. So I'll go for the damage reduction while fortified, which might help me push higher level content by giving me more damage reduction. So then I can see I can go to materials and stats and we can go into defensive. Can we actually see fortify? No, apparently we can't see fortify. Can we actually see? Fortified damage. No, okay. So the UI in this game is oh boy, it's a little bit special. I won't lie to you. It's like damage reduction. Do we have damage reduction for Fortify? Because Fortify is 10% base. So no, unfortunate. But we can see just by doing those, just by farming up gold, just by re-rolling FXs and stuff like that on my items, I've made my character more powerful. Now, just for the purposes of this, let's say I look at this and I look at this item and I see this item 695, that's high-end, strength, core skill, basic skill. I use all of these. I also have critical damage to crowd-controlled enemies, because crowd-controlled enemies include enemies that are slowed. I slow all enemies because I bleed them, then that bleed slows. So you can see here I've put in these blue gems and I have 9%, 9%, 9% more critical damage. Now, when I crit over 100,000, which is much higher than my other characters, but this character is a bit squishier, so you know, kind of a little bit of a trade-off. So what I can do here is I can go to this, I can extract this aspect, which this might work. I mean, it's just for the purposes of this, you know, we're going to show here. So I extract that aspect because I high rolled pretty high, and then I put this on it, and we can see, okay, so now, in addition to re-rolling some of my stats, we can now see that my character has ended up a little bit stronger. So now we have FXs on all my stuff. Now, how do I fuel this fire of industry, so to speak? How do I continue to keep my character fueled with all these resources? Well, it comes down to salvaging, effectively. I look at this, I say when hit a crowd control of the enemy, there's a chance for it to spread. Fire resist, angel berserking strength, this is shit. It's no good. Life per each close enemy, low rolled really bad, not any good. While berserking, you deal fire damage every second. Decent modifier, not doing dual wielding on this character, bye. This I can get a transmog from. You can see by that little hammer right there that I can get a transmog from this item. So unfortunately I'm just going to transmog it without really paying attention because I like art. So this one, once again, critical strike, overpowered, damage to bleeding, damage to berserking. Actually rolled pretty decent, I won't lie to you. But the item power level, like there's no real reason to go for this item, in my opinion. Like I already upgraded my other items, so there's no real reason to go for it. And again, I'm gonna need these Belful fragments to continue to imbue stuff, right? So I need this industry. Excuse me, I mean, so critical strikes with core skills increase your attack speed. Now that one's a good modifier, and I probably should have gone for that one, but you know. So increase critical strikes against injured enemies, damaging enemy with crit or downside where the set sleep scroll down. I'm not doing that build. I'm not doing that build. This one, I think I might keep around, to be honest. But then we look at upgrading. Now, upgrading is when things get, once again, a bit more interesting. So when we upgrade an item, it increases all the stats. If I was to upgrade these boots, it would get slow duration reduction, fury cost reduction, more movement speed, more strength. But the first three upgrades are pretty free. They're basically just going to use ore and silver ore, and it's really not that hard to do that. After that, you're going to start using coiling wards, which you use from disenchanting legendary gear, and then to go from 4 to 5 upgrade, you're going to need Helltide resources. Helltide resources are frustrating and annoying to grind, and I really don't like that system. Okay, but assuming that we like you're probably like me, and you probably ran out of silver ore all the time. So how do you get silver ore? You can go to this guy and you can turn iron chunks into silver ore. Now you will frequently run out of silver ore because you need to be selling your items, not disenchanting them, because you need to keep money. So what are you going to do? Anytime you see an iron mine, go get it, because you can turn that iron into silver. Don't ask how it works. It's just you refine iron and it turns into silver. But you're going to need a lot of that. So anytime you're going any location, you need to look at the side of the road. You need to be picking up all those resources. You can see I basically loot goblin everything because you need a lot of ore, because you need to upgrade all your items. Because again, by upgrading your items, as you can see here, by upgrading your items, you get more stats on them. Make sure to keep your items upgraded. There's basically no reason to not have any item upgraded to 3. As you can see here, if you have any item below rank 3, I'd be looking at you playing this game and I'd be sitting here and I'd be going, this guy really doesn't know what he's doing. Because you wouldn't know what you're doing. And I would say, in all honesty, that's how you keep your character upgraded. Now, there are some other things that you can do. Like, I think, I'm not entirely 100% sure on this, but I'm pretty sure that crit chance can only really roll on some items, like gloves. So you can see here my gloves rolled attack speed, and they rolled crit chance, and they rolled lucky hit chance, and they rolled, importantly, +3 ranks of Hammer the Ancients. My god! Did this roll perfectly? No, it didn't. I mean, the crit chance is a little bit low, but that 3 ranks on Hammer the Ancients, my god! Now, for those of you who understand how the system works, each point in ability adds 10% damage to the ability. That's base damage. So everything would multiply off that base damage. So getting ranks in abilities, particularly your main abilities that you're using to beat the crap out of people, is important. So that +3 takes it from 5 ranks to 8 ranks. So it goes from 150% base damage to 180% base damage. That's a 20% increase in my damage. So these gloves here effectively read 20% more damage on Hammer of the Ancients, multiplying. That adds up a lot. But what I can say is boots can roll movement speed, amulets can also seem to roll movement speed, rings and gloves seem to be able to roll crit. So you can see here on this ring I have critical strike damage, critical strike chance, on this one I have critical strike chance as well. On my gloves I have critical strike chance. Because of how crits work, they're one of your highest damage multiplying effects, and in your abilities, particularly in Barbarian, they have a lot of effects on crit. So when using two-handed weapons, you deal 15% more crit damage. Also, I have Wallop, by the way. I don't actually use stun, I don't use vulnerable, but I do have stuns, a lot of them. So that's why I like the ability to stun enemies, because I did go heavy into the Wallop. I can't seem to make enemies vulnerable. I could try to go for some things, and I understand for most people, they say you need to get vulnerable to go to late game. And I do agree that the vulnerable system is pretty bad, but there doesn't really seem to be much I can do about it. Maybe someone could figure out a way to get Hammer the Ancients vulnerable spam. But the way I'm doing things, the way I'm doing Unbridled Rage into Hammer the Ancients and just spamming the shit out of Fury Gen, and then Iron Skin so I don't die, you know, that works for me. And that's kind of how you have to think about it. You need to think about how you want to multiply your damage. And Barbarian is a little stat whore. As you can see here, I have 4 weapons, and all 4 of these weapons I can use to magnify each other's damage. But I would say that this is just generally a good way to roll your characters. Now, I also like the plus all stats, not really because it's good. Plus all stats is not really that amazing. But as you can see here into the Paragon, you're going to need dexterity, willpower, intelligence, etc. Not just only strength. My strength is very high. Lastly, the only thing I want to say is if your character is dying a lot, get more armor. Ooh, this is actually something I did poorly. Not because I'm stupid, but because the system kind of lies to you. If your character is too squishy, make sure to do the following. Now you can add sockets to items, but that uses Scudderpiss. You can do some world bosses. Generally speaking, you should have enough. Like I have 27, so just always show up to a world boss and nab it. But I just want to, for the purposes of doing this illustration right here, plus resistances is bad, pretty bad. And what's better than plus resistances is plus armor. So let's see if I can show you guys. Let's see if I can show you guys. Do I have any perfect flawless? Okay, so I do have some spare flawless skulls. Okay, so these give you 220 armor. Now normally you wouldn't get this much, but you know, I kind of cheated my way up the ranks by gearing my character so well that I could actually do level 70 plus content on this character already. But you can see here I take 56% damage reduction from physical damage. Then half of that also applies to magic, by the way. But we take 50, and by the way, I do agree with that. I don't think magic should totally ignore armor. Ignoring half of armor seems fine, because like if my dude's wearing full plate, I don't think a fireball would do the same damage to me as a dude just wearing a robe. I'm pretty sure the plate would do something. An ice bolt isn't going through my plate armor as easily. Well, yeah, yeah. So we can see here I'm taking 56% damage reduction. If I put you here, if I put you here, if I put you here, and I get all this to really suck it up, we're now up to 71% damage reduction. Ooh-wee. So, as you can imagine, I'm now significantly tankier. For nothing else, I have literally done nothing other than put sockets on my items, then add skulls into those sockets of jewelry. You see that? Okay. I hope this teaches all of you how much more damage and how much more impactful you can make your character from literally just going into town, fueling the fires of industry, literally just go into town and sell your stuff and disenchant your legendaries and get all the iron at the edge of the road upgrade everything to tier 3. Make sure you got weapon imbuements. You need those legendaries. You need them being sold. Get to world 3. Gear your character properly. Look at your things. Now remember, the item level affects only, as a baseline, the item level only affects the armor. Item level, I do believe, can mean it can roll higher. So like higher item power items will roll higher. And if you have too low item power, remember, because of how important armor is, this isn't like other ARPGs where you can kind of ignore armor. Having a couple hundred extra points of armor because an item is a higher item level can drastically impact your survivability. So that's just something to keep in mind. But a lower item level item with better stats, a lower item level item that just straight up rolls better modifiers for you dealing damage, for you taking damage, can be more important. I went to world tier 4 in my druid at level 57 because I stacked a shitload of survivability, and I was able to, despite dealing very little damage, I was able to just tank through the capstone dungeon and win. I was just healing and I was tanking. 57, level 57, that's pretty early to my knowledge. And it literally, it's not because I'm like amazing at this game. I'd say I'm a pretty good player, but it's literally just building your character. So I just want to make this video because I do agree, level scaling is not really an issue. You will obliterate enemies that are on your level. Any enemy that is on your level, you will utterly decimate, okay? Enemies on your level, if you build properly, I'm literally, I'm gonna just run out here and do this one. Like, enemies on your level, if you're building properly, will not be able to do anything. This character, hypothetically, what are we, 54 here? What level am I, 54? This character will have potentially 16 more levels before he should be going to world tier 4. Now that's not obviously how it will work, but you can see here, literally, let me just left click here. This is the same level enemy, and that's my left click, and that's how fast I can attack. Now, up next, we have, let me try to find anyone who can, God, mob density in this game sure is a thing, huh? Okay, so if we have, let me try to stun him and do damage.
Not ready yet.
Okay, that one wasn't great. Okay, try to live, damn it. Okay, I'm not getting the crit. But you can see here, at any rate, you can see that same level enemies will not be able to touch my character. And that's just how it should be. If you're building your character properly, same level enemies will be easy. And that's where you go into nightmare dungeons, and that's where you go up to, you know, higher tier areas and blah, 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 right? So that's the video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, like it. If you have a comment, leave a comment. If you disagree with me, disagree with me. All engagement helps me. But thank you, everybody. By the way, these potions, I'm not sure if they stack additively or multiplicatively. I'm not really sure, so don't ask me. Once again, I do my best. But thank you all. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everybody.